And obviously, let's put the cat out of the bag. All the drugs involved put a tremendous amount of stress on health. And that probably takes the longest to resolve. Vigorous Steve here. Let's discuss why IFBB pros tend to downsize after the Mr. Olympia. Because every year I see the same thing in the news or the YouTube channels that report on the news in the bodybuilding scene. Pro so-and-so looks small. Pro so-and-so looks tiny. Looks downsized. Looks like he doesn't even work out. Well guys, there's a reason for that. They do that for health. So let's discuss that in this video. You'll see the same thing with amateurs that compete at the World Championships, or the Mr. Universe, or whatever top level competition that they join. You go all in, which means that you have to go all out afterwards. So let me specify and clarify that in this video, because most of these pros or top level competitors are not going to be honest or completely transparent about their drug use and give you any indication that what they're doing is unhealthy, right? Because they have sponsorship obligations and they might want to keep up appearances that they're in a perfect state of health when in reality, by showtime, they're not. And I've coached a decent amount of top-level amateurs to verify that most of these guys are not in a perfect state of health anymore. And neither was I at any point in time when I was absolutely looking phenomenal. So there's always a down period involved. And we can actually learn from that because you can't push the gas to the pedal to the metal all the time. You have to take breaks. And these IFBB pros that compete at the Mr. Olympia are actually very, very, very smart in their approach. They go all in for maybe 5 months, 6 months leading up to the Olympia. And the other 6 months of the year, if they're continue to stay qualified for the Mr. Olympia or the World Championships or the Mr. Universe competition, as long as they stay qualified, they don't need to do any additional shows to requalify or have an opportunity to compete at this highest of highest level again. So they can take a break. Maybe 3 months, 4 months, they completely clean out and they resolve whatever negative health ramification they got along the way. But you also have to understand that for the 4 months, 5 months, 6 months leading up to the top level competition is that nobody wants to take time off. Nobody. There's no deloads. I know as a coach, because these guys, I tell guys, you're 8 weeks out and we won't have an opportunity to deload close to the show. So this is your last opportunity to deload. I suggest you take it. And they don't want to take it because they have to train leading into the competition. And deloading at 14 weeks out or 16 weeks out or 20 weeks out usually means that they're completely overtrained by the time they step on stage. And there's no amount of pharmacology that can prevent you from overtraining, especially considering that most guys are going to be in a caloric deficit towards the later stages to get shredded, nasty peeled, dry, and hard at the end. So a lot of guys are in a tremendous state of overtraining, and that warrants a long downtime by itself already, disregarding the drugs and the caloric restriction and the mental strain and the stress, to requalify for next year's Mr. Olympia or to defend your title. Lots of stress is involved, guys, and I'm sure you probably don't understand unless you've been actively coaching athletes yourself. The stress involved to compete at the highest level, tremendous. Because you're representing yourself, you have to improve on your better shape from the previous showing or the previous year. You have to renegotiate your sponsorship agreement or deal. You're probably representing a couple other affiliate programs. And then, of course, all the people that are in your corner that, probably sacrifice parts of their lives so you can be successful. That puts even more strain and stress on your shoulders. So keep that all in mind. It's a tremendous endeavor just to step on stage at the Mr. Universe World Championships or the Mr. Olympia and all the shows leading up to that. And the stress involved and the training involved already deserves downtime. Whether that's a week, 2 weeks, 3 months. Every athlete can decide that for themselves, but most guys that I know, they take 2 months off, even 3 months off. And I think the only pro that's really forthcoming about this is Dexter Jackson. He would also take 3 months off after the Mr. Olympia and just be honest about it. Said, guys, I'm not going to train. I'm going to eat what I want. I would not talk about the pharmacology involved, but we can just assume that he's going to a hormone replacement or come off completely. I mean, I've talked to several IFBB pros that told me that he came off after competitions completely, just clean out. No super physiological amounts of androgens. Just go back to the little amount of endogenous androgens, testosterone that they can produce. And most of them can still produce because they do PCT every year after these top-level shows. Albeit not to a sufficient amount for the disproportionate amount of muscle mass that they carry. That's why they end up not looking so good, as I didn't look so good after finishing post-cycle therapy myself. But they probably have double the amount of muscle mass that I have. So let's say we both end up at 600 nanograms per deciliter. They have twice the muscle mass, so then now they have 300 nanograms per deciliter comparative to my relation of testosterone to the amount of muscle mass that I carry. So also keep that in mind. Yeah? If you go off with more muscle mass, the less cosmetically appeasing you're going to look, and the less muscle you're going to retain. So it's being this chronic overtrained state that warrants some downtime. And maybe there's just tired of training. I mean, again, 16 weeks in a row and training when you're in this tremendous caloric restrictive state. It's not fun, dude. It's not fun at all. You feel like death. Really. You feel like death before you go to, and sometimes you just have to sit there, even before doing fasted cardio. You sit there just for 30 minutes, just trying to get the courage to do fasted cardio. And then you have 2 or 3 meals containing trace amounts of carbohydrates and just enough to kind of drive you to the gym, but not for a sustainable workout. And then you have your workout. No pump, no contraction, no energy, lifting, 80% of your previous maxes during your off season. You feel like ass, and you have to write that out because, your competitors are feeling the same way, but some guys are able to push through that a little bit harder than the other competitors. And that's why different guys end up looking different on stage. So there's some downtime deserved from that. There's some downtime deserved from the mental stress involved in competing at the highest level. And obviously, let's put the cat out of the bag. All the drugs involved put a tremendous amount of stress on health. And that probably takes the longest to resolve because the mental stress, a couple cheat meals, you'll feel okay. Maybe a couple of weeks off from the gym, you'll feel okay and have the tendency to go back to the gym to start training again. But the organ stress involved, and again, guys, these guys, you go all in when you compete at the highest level. You're going to do the orals and the high dosages and the plasma expanders and the diuretics, etc., etc., etc. And I'm sure when you look at the drug cocktail of every Olympian separately, they will all be different. Right? Everybody has their favorite approach to peak the best way they can. Right? Everybody's physiologically different, and different approaches might lead to the same result on stage, simply because everybody is physiologically different. But what is uniform, probably, is that there's a tremendous amount of stress on the organs, and that takes some time to resolve. Now, they're not going to be open about it because, again, these pros have to keep up appearances that they're in a good state of health, and competing at the highest level is not detrimental to health, even though, unfortunately, over time, we see health decline with most of the competitors that compete at the highest level, and whether that's structural problems, when they get into injuries, tore muscle groups, or impinged nerves, or bulging stomachs, whether that's organ stress or tremendous amount of food intake, right? At one point, the physique starts to decline. And honestly, I think that the physiques decline less if these guys do a 3-month off period off of everything. The training, the supplementation, lowering the food intake, going back to endogenous testosterone production if possible, and otherwise just cookie cutter hormone replacement to sustain particular functions that are regulated by testosterone, right? Either do PCT or you go on a hormone replacement dose. And during this period that they focus on getting healthy, it allows them to extend their career. Because the guys, you see that at the amateur circuit, the guys that really try to make a name for themselves, they do a local show, then a regional show, then maybe a state show, and then the nationals. And then they do a pro show. So that's 6 shows in a year. These guys are burned out. Completely burned out by the time they do a pro show. It's better just to take a break. Unless the pro shows incredibly close to the nationals, and they're somehow able to sustain their shape. But the guys that never turn pro and keep doing shows after shows after shows, they tend to burn out. They don't take breaks. They don't take care of their health. And again, at the pro circuit, there's always intelligent coaches that tell these guys, stop competing. Pick your shows accordingly. Use strategy. Do maybe the New York Pro and the Arnold Classic. 2 shows a year. That's it. Allowing you for 3 months of downtime, so you're basically health impaired 9 months out of the year. Whether that health is impaired a little bit or tremendously before the Arnold Classic or the New York Pro, depending on cycle duration and drug combinations and however you want to peak. For less than half of the year, you're probably in a not so good state of health, but the majority part of the year, you're in a decent to good state of health. So these guys are use strategy and pick their shows accordingly, allowing them to gradually move up in the pro circuit or in the amateur circuit, competing at the World Championships or the Mr. Universe, for example. I always incorporated the same strategy with my wife, and she never got into it in a healthy state. But I will always say, listen, we need a strategy for you to compete. So you're going to do a low entry-level show first, make a name for yourself, show with what you got, and then move up. And every time you move up to a next higher-level show, you only compete when you're ready. So when you do the nationals in Thailand, only compete when you feel you can win. And when you do the Southeast Asian Championships, only do the competition when you feel you can win. Same for the Asians, same for the world. Now, in her case, she always felt that she could win. And again, she was always in a good state of health. So we would be able to continue. But by the time she got to the World Championships, so that's 1.5 years of active competing, she was pretty drained. And there was a 3-month down period after that. I told her, just take a break. Don't train. Eat normal like a normal person, because competing for so long and the ups and downs in body fat, you develop a little bit of an unhealthy relationship with food. Right? The chronic caloric restriction during the week and binge eating in the weekend. And I'm sure the same thing happens with people that compete at the utmost highest level. An unhealthy relationship with food, which also deserves some downtime, so you can kind of relax and eat when you want to, not when you need to, or eat foods that you want to and not foods that you need to eat to contribute to your goals. Now, during this down period that the IFBB Pro or top-level amateur is downsizing by not going to the gym to get out of this tremendously overtrained state that they were in before the competition, or eat a little bit more freely to get a better relationship with food again, and discontinuing all the performance-enhancing drugs to get into a perfect state of health for the next competitive season. During this downtime or down period, they're actively doing therapy. And whether that's gynecomastia surgery or another surgery that needs to take place to perhaps resolve an injury that they acquired during the time that they were prepping for the competition, or stem cell therapy or PRP, or laser removal of tattoos or hair. During this down period, a lot of therapy is occurring for the benefits of the next competitive season. And it's something that I've always preached myself, is while you're not going to the gym, while you're taking a break from bodybuilding, you can still do beneficial things which will help with your bodybuilding aspirations when you pick up with your bodybuilding goals. So there's different scenarios in which different problems need to be resolved, requiring different practices, and whether that's surgery or particular supplementation protocols, or maybe some deep tissue massage therapy and cupping, or Graston therapy, right, or the inversion table, whatever. During this down period where you're suddenly faced with a tremendous amount of extra time because you're not training, you're not eating according to a schedule, and you're not injecting according to its schedule, which at the highest level takes a decent amount of time out of your day as well. You have all this free time, and now you can dedicate that to therapy to resolve medical conditions, health conditions, cosmetic conditions that are not favorable when you pick up your bodybuilding journey. So you get that out of the way while you're just resting and taking a break. And again, most of these methods may be a little bit invasive, but because you're taking a break from these other aspects of bodybuilding, the overall burden on your body and your health should be a lot less, significantly less. So that's always something that I've mentioned to my clients. Okay, when you're taking a break from bodybuilding, resolve all the other stuff that you've been procrastinating about. Get that under control, get that resolved. Do your surgery, whatever you need to do that first before you pick up the bodybuilding gain train again. So take it as your consideration. It's okay to take a break and take a step back and not train for a while. Eat normal for a while. Eat when you're hungry and eat what you want. Try not to get fat, obviously. And also have a long down period where you don't take any performance enhancing drugs, because it will add longevity to your bodybuilding career. And that's the main reason why these IFBB pros and top level amateurs take some time to slim down, disappear, cover up, look a little bit smaller than their competitive days. And then before you know it, muscle memory kicks in and they start to grow again and they look in tremendous, absolutely phenomenal shape that you, me, or 99% of the population of this planet will never, ever accomplish in their lifetime. So you really have to give these guys credit, and if they need to slim down to sustain their career and ensure health and get themselves perfectly healthy for another year of competition, just let them be and congratulate them and tell them that it's cool to slim down, because they need to. They need to slim down so you can have a show. I hope you understand this. Thank you so much for watching. If you're looking for the most comprehensive guides to bodybuilding pharmacology, you can find the ebooks on my website, vigoroussteve.com/shop. Looking for personalized advice, I'm always offering consultations. You can find the rates in the consultations section. Follow me on Instagram at VigorousSteve. Front double bicep, not anywhere close to an IFBB Pro, but I'm still trying because I love to bodybuild just as much as you do. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.